Unite picket lines that have lined the streets and the cities of all of our nations, who have stood together to defend their families and their livelihoods and their communities. 90,000 Unite members already been out on strike, already defending, already trying to put money in workers' pockets. And those striking workers have already won £200 million back into the pockets of workers. No wonder they want to stop us doing our job. £200 million back in the pockets of workers. So let's say here today, to Debbie and to Jason, to all our NHS workers, we stand with you, we're proud of you, we support you, solidarity to you all. Just over a year ago, because I wanted to take the union back to the workplaces, to our hospitals, to our communities, to fight for workers, to defend workers, to win workers, to make sure that workers knew that we had their back, we were in their corner. And we were moving resources, and we have been for the last year, into the front line, because we are supporting this NHS dispute, including, friends, strike pay, because we will not have our members starved back to work. And friends, we will not sit back and watch this government run down our health service. And make no mistake, this is a deliberate act of self-harm. What this government is doing is a deliberate act of self-harm. This is a political choice. They know, by doing this, that they are putting the NHS on life support. This government, I believe, with their actions, wants the NHS to be ran down because they really want it to be privatised. There can be no other reason that they would be doing what they're doing. NHS staff are leaving in droves because they cannot afford to stay in the job they love. Experienced staff are leaving in droves. What is the point of their fancy-dancy plans of stopping waiting lists and all the things they keep reporting if they've got no staff left to run the NHS? Make no mistake, this is about the future of the NHS, along with decent pay. What do we want? More pay. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? More pay. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? More pay. It's always workers and the working class. And this is a really important point, and we spoke about this earlier on today, but it's so important. It's always workers and the working class, our sons, our daughters, our sisters, our brothers, our fathers and our mothers, who were sent out to deal with crisis. When these workers went out to deal with this crisis, nobody knew when this was going to end. Nobody knew a vaccine would be in time. They were sent out to deal with the crisis where everybody else was in their homes. And when that crisis is over, these workers and their communities and other workers are expected to pay for it. How dare they do that? How dare they send these workers out to deal with this crisis and then treat them like this? Well, let's send a very clear message from this room in the West Midlands today. No more. You are not going to put one hand in our pocket and the other up our back. Absolutely no more. On notice. Let's start putting these politicians on notice. Unite is not going to stand by and watch you decimate our NHS. How dare you think that you can do this to our NHS? Every single health member in Unite is going to be balloted over phases, 100,000 of you. And we've already got the first phase with the ambulance drivers and the ambulance workers. You will be supported by this union and by me for industrial action. Vote yes, it's time to have your say. And friends, Debbie's right. Debbie's right, you can already hear the attacks that are happening to health workers. What's been said about health workers trying to defend their families and, by the way, trying to defend the NHS. Because patients are already dying. The notion that what is happening has not already affected patients is wrong. Patients are already dying. Now is the time to act. Rishi Sunak, shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! 14%. I mean, these are staggering figures. 14% of nursing staff have been forced to go to food banks. 1 in 4 hospitals are compelled to provide food for their own staff. 1 in 4 hospitals. And there is a hospital in the West Midlands where we are now that are providing breakfast. They're providing breakfast for their own staff who do not have the money to feed themselves in the morning. This is an embarrassment. This is nothing short of a national disgrace. These workers were sent out to deal with crisis, and the government has literally turned its back. We will do whatever it takes to defend the NHS. We will fight for you and your families. And let's just say something about the money for a moment, because I'm hearing them bleating on about they don't have enough money. Well, they need to find the money, because that's what I suggest they do. They absolutely wasted £8.7 billion on PPE that did not work. And apparently it was such a small amount of money, they didn't even bother to do an inquiry about where that money went and why they spent that money. We're only asking for an inflation pay rise that would cost £5 billion. So they need to find the money. It cannot be right that city bankers get uncapped bonuses while health workers are expected to take pay cuts. So, friends, in conclusion, let's not forget this. It's not the politicians who save lives or treat patients. They weren't the ones out there in COVID. It was NHS workers, bus workers, food workers, shop workers, and every other worker that was out there defending. If the politicians walked out, to be quite frank, nobody would bloody notice. It's when NHS workers take action, everybody notices, because you do the work, you give the care, you are the NHS. Make no mistake. Friends, make no mistake. The full weight of Unite is behind you. I am behind you. We will defend you no matter how long this takes. We will be with you every step of the way. So let's lift up our heads. Lift up our heads as well as our banners. Victory to the strike. See you on the picket line. Solidarity.